These are the trades that I took for the week 5th of August. Euro dollar, going into the week, we knew it was a strong bullish order flow with a clear drawn liquidity. Price opens Monday, consolidates, takes out Friday highs, and then pulls down and holds this fair value gap and immediately finds strong support into that drawn liquidity. And then price puts in another fair value gap right here. On the high time frame, there's a lot of liquidity for price to run into, especially at this equal highs on the daily time frame below the imbalance. And then puts in this fair value gap. And then price comes down on the 5-minute time frame, takes liquidity off this level, holds, then holds with the fair value gap, then another fair value gap, which is where I took my entry. I was out around this area. Actually, no, I was out around here. So that's around 1.86, 1.85 percentage. Trade number 2, price came into this liquidity, equal highs, imbalance, strong level, took out liquidity on the 1 hour time frame, and then dropped down, held this fair value gap, bullish fair value gap, which is something that was, limited me from going short. And then price comes into this 15-minute fair value gap, and it provides a inverse fair value gap, which is a good trade, and I took the trade down to this level, which eventually hit target during London Open. I could have taken that all the way down to this low if I wanted to, but yeah, let's just keep it what it is, 1.5%. My third trade was in pound dollar. It was a bearish trade. We are in a bearish order flow after taking these highs. Right, after taking these highs, we've been dropping, but we've come deep into discount, so this is something to consider. We came into this daily time frame fair value gap at 50% and held. However, price has been holding this order block on the way down, and we seem quite bearish. And this is the inside bar for yesterday, and I was expecting price to come down to the previous day low. So on the 4 hours clearer, the order flow is a lot clearer. Right, bearish fair value gap held. You go furthermore on 15, bearish fair value gap held, imbalance held, and price has been dropping. So going into the weekday, we take our liquidity off this high, and we start bearish order flow with these bearish fair value gaps. Right, another fair value gap. So to me, I'm expecting price to reach down to this level. We close below all of these lows, and price puts in this lovely equal highs right below an imbalance. So further cementing, bearish order flow. More imbalance, held, more market structure shift, and I took a trade right here. This is just a very much discretionary trade. I honestly don't know whether it was going to hit the order block or not, and then I took my target at, I took it at previous week low rather than previous day low, right here, and that was like 1.13%, 1.1%. This is just, price comes into that, taps it, and then it just continues lower, all the way down to the low of the daily time frame fair value gap, which I could have held for another 2.8. So there's that. Fourth trade I took was a long on pound dollar. So price came down to the low of the daily time frame fair value gap, deep in discount. On the 5-minute time frame, we got a bullish fair value gap there. Price pulls back to that fair value gap, holds, and then we get a market structure shift right there. And then I believe I went long around this area. So we got this market structure shift, and more fair value gaps. Another fair value gap here as well. So I went long, I believe, just here. And target, I was aiming for around these highs. Well, I think these highs. It's clear on the 60-minute, because on 60-minute you can clearly see there's this bearish fair value gap. Straight after, price rejects this weekly time frame fair value gap, and then hit stops, and then we get another market structure shift with a fair value gap, I believe, right there. And then price just takes off. I should have re-entered here because I was quite confident with the point of interest. It's quite deep in discount at the low of the daily time frame fair value gap, and we've taken some liquidity below that. So that was a minus 1%. Trade number 5 and 6, I took a long after price came down to this daily time frame fair value gap, and there was a clear drawn liquidity for price to come into. So yeah, we have this bearish momentum coming down, came into a daily time frame fair value gap deep in discount, and price put in this imbalance, a bullish fair value gap going up, and it comes back down and it holds that fair value gap Monday morning. It holds that fair value gap on Wednesday morning, and I'm aiming for price to come up to this level and then back to that 240 fair value gap and then back down. It's a very small fair value gap. Nonetheless, it's a fair value gap below an order block, which makes it a high probability fair value gap for me. And let's see, we come down, a sharp turn into that fair value gap, essentially a turtle soup. Then we displace, right, perfect displacement. And I believe I took a trade at this fair value gap right here, the second fair value gap. Same for targets up there. Honestly, stops way down here. I had placed my stops here. It's too close, right? I was too selfish. I could have put my stops down to this, below that level. And what happens, price moves in opposite direction, and honestly I closed my trade here thinking price is going to come down, and then it does this and then holds, and then it holds. Because I exited that trade too early, I wanted to get in again. We get this fair value gap. I think I took a long here, and then my stops was at 1.2699, yeah, around this level, and I was aiming for those highs. Again, something to be wary. This, 50% off that daily time frame fair value gap is rejected. Such a shame. Price comes back and hits my stop. I mean, this 618 entry would have been perfect. I could have re-entered. And then price just consolidates, pushes back down. Another entry right here would have been, comes down, takes out liquidity, and then provides a market structure shift, plus inverse fair value gap entry right here. And then price takes off to my intended, the 240 fair value gap. Anyway, yeah, those are the two stops I took. Trade 7, I took a long after price closed above these highs, after rejecting this daily time frame fair value gap, which looked like a market structure shift for me. Honestly, this was just a very stupid trade, because my entire premise going into the week was price was bearish. We got strong bearish order flow, and this 1 hour time frame closed above and tapping into that bearish fair value gap. I should have seen this. I entered, took a trade around here. So yeah, we closed above this inverse fair value gap, making an inverse fair value gap, and I believe I took a trade from like here to here. When it's clear, right, we rejected a 240 fair value gap, we're bearish, order flow is bearish, close below this fair value gap to make an inverse fair value gap, put in another bearish fair value gap here to make it a bearish order flow. Anyway, yeah, I took a trade there and it completely moved in the opposite direction as it was supposed to do. So that's a loss. That is -1%. I took a short on Eurodollar on my main account and also the demo 10k account. Price took liquidity, started bearish, order flow, clear, drawn liquidity is identified, and then this is where I took the trade, right? So we held this daily 240 fair value gap, we got displacement, bearish displacement, and price put in a fair value gap here, and my entry was at this fair value gap, stops above these highs, and targets was around here or even at this level. Anyway, price holds this fair value gap, which is a good sign. This was on the 1 hour time frame, so I didn't really look down, and then yep, comes down, holds this, and then pushes up, takes out this liquidity, and then pushes up again up to the 50% mark and then tanks. That's another -1%. This is another trade I took on my main account on Thursday. So this is the third trade on the main account, but overall it's the 9th trade of the week. So yeah, we came into this fair value gap, order flow is bearish. I expect price to come down to this level. It took out liquidity from yesterday's high, and when I woke up in the morning, the 5 a.m. close candle was bearish, engulfing candle, and after seeing that I was like, yeah, it's going to go bearish. And then I took a short here. You see the fair value gap held, and then I took a short right here, expecting price to go down to the Asian low at least, and then I had my stop somewhere up here, and then price pushes up to the 240, 50% of that fair value gap, which is what I was predicting from early on, and then it drops. So yes, silly trade again. That's another -1% for the week. After taking that loss, I took an entry around here at these fair value gaps, which price forms this head and shoulder pattern, and it comes and holds that fair value gap, eventually tanks. Unfortunately for me, I entered and then exited straight away out of fear of losing again, so that was like break even, almost 0%. So could have let that run for a long time. What? It hit my drawn liquidity, which was down here, right? So yeah, it's funny. So another trade I took, trade number 10, was based on fair value gap on the 60-minute displacement after liquidity grab, then bearish order flow held, then more displacement with 60 fair value gap, but it's come into a drawn liquidity for the week already. So it's probably a fear FOMO trade, because I just wanted to be in a trade, and also I was trading it on a 10k account, so I just wanted to get in no matter what. And I believe I got in at like these fair value gaps after these were held. It stops somewhere up there. I'm trying to aim for not too much actually, probably these lows, which get stopped out immediately well, in the evening, and then price continues to push higher. So, and that's a -1% again. Then I took a long after price reached my drawn liquidity and hit this fair value gap, and on the 5-minute you can see price consolidates and then drops and taps into that fair value gap, provides inverse fair value gaps, and I entered at this level right here with stops down here because I was protective and my targets was here. This holds, another market structure shift, pull back into fair value gap, and I would have given another entry, and then from there we just continue higher, clear the entire fair value gap. So could have gone there, or at least into this inside level. After that I took this trade. So this trade I took was on another 10k account because I had taken too many losses on the other one, and it was almost at max drawdown. And this one I was quite sure about, especially at the time. It was at 3 p.m. and normally price does provide some kind of an opportunity around that time. Then I took a short the next day on this bearish order flow, bearish fair value gap, 240 bearish fair value gap. Again, drawn liquidity is already reached, so this might not be the best trading idea. I would have wanted price to come up to here. However, we start to get displacement as price came into this 240 fair value gap. We got this market structure shift. We get closed below with this candle, and on the 5-minute it's clearer. And then I took a trade on the 618 pullback with my stops, I believe, was up here, and then I wanted to get it down to target at the Asian low. However, price pushes up, takes out my stops, and then eventually it comes back down. Ideally, the better trade would have been taking a 618 entry from that high to down this to this high, or waiting for price to put another fair value gap after rejecting, this 50% off that 240 fair value gap, and then taking that entry. You still get this head and shoulder pattern, and then on the right shoulder you get the fair value gap to take a short. Anyway, that's another -1%. I took another long on pound dollar, even though the order flow is bearish. We got this bearish fair value gap. What happened was, on the 1 hour time frame, price comes up and closes above this bearish fair value gap. Note that this is still inside this 240 fair value gap, so anything could have happened. That happens, and then price drops. We get market structure shift in direction of the bearish order flow, which I completely ignored at the time, and then we got this bearish fair value gap that turns into a IFVG, and then I took an entry pretty much right here with stops down here. I got out of this trade pretty much straight away after we rejected this weekly time for fair value gap, and then price continued lower to the weekly low. So that was entering with a FOMO first, because it's a trade I had to get into, and then realizing, shit, the order flow is bearish, price is probably going to hit these lows, so I should get out of the trade, and then I got out. Another trade I took was a long. Price took out weekly low, daily time for fair value gap, weekly time for fair value gap, displaced with strong bullish fair value gap, and I don't know why I took a long here, but yeah, I took a long somewhere around here. I expected during the day for price to pull back into this fair value gap and find some kind of a support. Let's see. Yeah, I believe I took it long after seeing this close above these levels at this fair value gap right here. So maybe it hasn't closed yet. I think I took it on the 15-minute. Saw this order fair value gap, and then took a long there. I don't even know where I was going for. Targets somewhere there, stops there. I got out of the trade straight away because we are at 240 fair value gap. The peak was tapped. Potential reversal zone in the high time frame bearish order flow. Right now there is no prediction. The prediction was that price will come down to these levels and find some kind of a support, which it does, and then it goes up. That's another trade. Straight after that I took a short. So after seeing price rejecting this daily time frame fair value gap and also closing below this bullish fair value gap, creating an inverted fair value gap, I took a short somewhere around here. I think my stops was here, and then I wanted to obviously target the Asian lows. However, as price started to move up, I got out of the trade because I didn't want to get stopped out again, and that was again me getting in the trade too early and then panicking and leaving. So ideally the better trade would have been waiting for price to provide some further confirmation. I should have waited for further confirmation. So yeah, we have this Asian low was a target. If anything, this low was a target for me. Finally we start seeing some displacement, order block displacement, equal highs. That's perfect. We saw that at the start of the week as well, and then market structure shift and then pull back into this fair value gap. That would have been a perfect trade. But yeah, that's where we are at the moment. Took a lot of trades this week and learned a lot. So let's go. So I took around 12 trades, probably 15 if I don't count the ones that I broke even on. And on my main account, which is the main thing that I care about, I took 3 losses. And the other 10k one, it was overall break even. Maybe not. I took different position size. So I know this is like -4%. And then the other one was break even. Yeah, this was break even. And that's that.